Hi, all. I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021, and you're watching WGAN TV live at 5. We have an awesome show for you today. 7 strategies to sell floor plans as an add-on with Captured 3D. Here to visit with us about it is Stephen Kunis. Stephen is founder and chief operating officer for Captured 3D. Stephen, good to see you again.
As always, Dan, thanks for having me on.
Stephen's been on the show a number of times, talking at length about Captured. Before we jump into today's topic, 7 strategies to sell floor plans as an add-on with Captured, Stephen, how about giving us an overview of Captured 3D for those that may not be familiar with Captured 3D?
Yeah, absolutely. Not a problem. Again, thanks for having us on. I'm really excited to be here. For those of you who are new to me and new to Captured, we've been around for about 6 years now, working within the Matterport industry. And we focus on creating different layers and service offerings for anyone that's creating content, depending on different industries that you operate within. So things like virtual tour overlays or virtual tour skins, putting your brandings and logos, client information within that space, one-page property websites. And so bringing in all of your content into a designed property page that you can then provide to your clients or your listings. And these can be templated. And so you can move things around and create them how you like. We have our white label solution. This is currently free, so you can reroute the domains, the URLs under your company name. Really useful tool for online branding and digital branding presentations. Some of our newer features like virtual staging, so being able to put furniture within houses that may not have any, or top up some furniture into houses that might not have a lot of. It's a fantastic feature that continues to evolve. Custom meta tags, and so changing icons and being able to do a whole bunch of different things within the meta tag space, including web embed, media embed, and a few other things there as well. Media embed, so placing all sorts of media within the space, including audio and location-based audio. And then we come through to the custom floor plans and site plans, which we'll be diving into today, so I won't touch on too much. But then things like photo retouching, so getting the photos extracted from Matterport, touching them up, and so that the grass is greener, the sky is bluer, and everything looks a lot brighter within your images, so you can deliver a high-res package for your listings. Post-production services, so this is creating highlight reels in the Matterport tour for you. When you're doing high volumes of tours, it can be quite time consuming to do a lot of the back end yourself. So we provide a service that can do that for you overnight. So when you wake up in the morning, everything's ready for you. And then we've got our automated booking system, including payments. So you can schedule everything in completely hands off and give your clients the ability to book you in when you're available. And then things like automated emails for your delivery and analytics. There's a whole bunch of things. I won't go into them, otherwise we'll spend most of the webinar, the show talking about all the items that we do, but we'll focus on what we're doing today.
Awesome. I think of Captured as a Swiss Army knife meets Matterport. There's so many different things that Captured does. It's really quite amazing. Stephen, while you're getting set up to take us through some different examples of Captured floor plans, why don't you start to share screen? I'm going to share with our audience to make it super easy to get started with Captured. To receive a $90 Captured credit, which is good for 5 Captured floor plans, along with getting some change back. Use the WGAN affiliate link for Captured 3D. It's wgan.info/captured, CAPTUR 3D. And you got 30 days to use the $90 credit from the time that you sign up the first time. You can use them for 5 free floor plans, or frankly, you can use it for the credit for any service that Captured offers. Stephen, even before we kind of talk strategy, it's helpful to really understand what a Captured floor plan looks like. Can you take us through it? Maybe point out strategies for selling floor plans as an add-on as you're showing us each different version style of Captured floor plans.
Yeah, not a problem at all. Before diving into it, the good thing to note and to remember as we go through this, with Captured, we charge one price So no matter how big the property is, how many levels, or what type of floor plan you're trying to receive, it's one simple price of $16. And so as I go through these different examples, and we do talk about the strategies at the end, it's really important to note, because that is going to be your baseline for creating value for yourself and for your business, as you can sell each one of these differently, and for different markups and different profit margins. And so it's really important to note, for $16, you'll be able to receive everything that we show you here today. The first one that we've got up here on the board, really simply, is placing your client's branding within a floor
Excuse me,
plan.
Stephen, I just see your desktop. Should I be looking at a?
Let me try again. Is that coming through?
Yes, thank you.
My apologies. As beautiful as my background is, this is a little bit more important. So as we were saying, with client branding, we'll dive in here to get things going. And you can see here on the right-hand side, the example that we've got. It's a few little things that help provide your customer with the satisfaction that they're seeing their brand, their icons, and in some cases, their faces. You can put their icons and their images onto the floor plan, but their branding, their logos, their colors, and the way that they speak about their floor plans is really important to make it feel like theirs. Being able to offer this to clients really easily is one of the probably the easiest strategies to get into the door to start offering services. If you provide a standard floor plan, they can usually get that anywhere. Being able to provide a customized one makes it a lot more unique to you and to that customer in itself.
So just hold there just for a second, because I just want to, forgive me, but I want to stay on this floor plan and ask you some questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I see the logo in the bottom left in black and white. Can that logo be anywhere on here? If I want to specify, I want it on the top left, top right?
Yep, anywhere you like.
I noticed that this is in meters. I'm in the United States. Can this be feet and inches?
Yes, it can, quite easily, by click of a button.
I noticed that this floor plan is in English. Are there options for other languages?
Yes, so we have 5 base languages, being English, German, French, Dutch, and Spanish. But if there's any other languages that we don't have as our standard, we provide a spreadsheet that has a list of room names and then what you would call those room names in your local language. And we use that as a template for you moving forward.
Awesome. And then I noticed on this disclaimer, if I have words that I want to use that are different, can I specify what the disclaimer words are?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably one of the more important items to cover from a global point of view, because in each country, in different regions of different countries, they have different requirements for disclaimers and even the floor plan themselves. And so all of those things are changeable for that purpose, to make sure that we're delivering floor plans to the local requirements that are necessary.
Okay, great. So that's client branding as an example of a strategy for selling floor plans as an add-on.
The last one here that I didn't touch on before we move along, you mentioned like changing the logos and things around. One of the easiest things to do as well is just to upload a version of the design that you're trying to recreate. And so if a client that you're about to start working with has an existing floor plan that they want to continue to create, we're able to receive that as a template, recreate it in our backend, and then deliver that back to you when you need it as well.
And do I need to do that, or does Captured have some default examples of floor plans and I can select one that I like best for my clients?
Correct. Yeah. So we do have a baseline of templates, which we'll go through towards the end, I guess, or towards the middle when we go through a bit of a live demo. But if there's more specific, unique designs, then you can upload a floor plan and we can go from there. So the next one, as an example, is a site plan. And so you can see here on the right-hand side of my screen, the site plan is the boundary of the property. Matterport obviously captures the interiors perfectly, and you can do some in the exterior around dusk and dawn and things like that, but it's not necessary to scan outside for us to create a site plan. You can see here how we go about doing it. It's a mixture of satellite images and 360 exteriors from Matterport, or if you're a drone photographer, providing a drone shot from above is useful, or you can even hand draw it and our team can go from there. It's not all of those things, it's just one of those items, and we can create a site plan, and it's super easy and really, really beneficial to the client. They know that they're going to be receiving a floor plan in most cases, but when you provide back a detailed site plan showing the space on the property, it has an immense value proposition for not only the real estate agent, but the vendor selling the property as well.
Couple of questions on captured site plans. Just for clarification, at the top of the show, you mentioned $16 per floor plan. You're now showing a floor plan and a site plan. Is the site plan included in the $16 as well?
Yes, it is. So everything we're going through today is just one price.
Great. Second is, if I have not shot any Matterport 360 views or any Matterport scans outdoors, and I don't provide you any drone photography, are you still able to do the site plan based on the satellite images alone?
Yes, we are. The accuracy of the site plan might not have the finer details like shrubs or trees under awnings that we wouldn't be able to see, but we'll be able to create pretty well the site plan that you see on the right-hand side here. You can see where the residence is, the shed, the pathways, and the main areas of that property in itself. The satellite images are very useful, but we do need to acknowledge that they're not always up to date. And so if you've recently done a renovation, they might be outdated. And so just be cautious of when you're going to a property to maybe just do a couple outdoor 360s, because then our team uses that as a reference point to make sure that what they're seeing in the satellite image is actually what's going on the ground as well.
So on a site plan, if I do give you 360 views outdoors and or drone photography, then when Captured does a site plan, will the landscaping reflect the kind of shrubbery plants on the property?
Yeah, it will. To a certain extent, it's not, site plans aren't the most detailed. You're not going to have a plant for plant, but the plants are going to be in the right locations if we can see them. And the really important one is when you've got, we call them awnings in Australia. I assume it's the same in the States. It's coverings that you can't see from above, but they're outdoor areas. There's a lot of great information and a lot of value to the property under those spaces. So to be able to see it, then we can draw it and make it more valuable on the site plan.
So a site plan would be a second strategy to sell floor plans as an add-on, is actually offer both the floor plan and the site plan. And again, still $16 US for the combination.
Yeah, correct. And that strategy side is kind of like almost like your 2-for-1, right? So you've got you've got your floor plan, and now you can offer this site plan however you choose to price it, but it looks like it's a 2-for-1 for the client, but really it's just one offering from us.
This property looks pretty large. Is there a limit on the size of a property to get back a floor plan?
No, we have no limits on our floor plans. We'll go through it towards the end. There is a 24-hour turnaround for bigger properties, but usually it's a lot quicker. But there is no limit on the size. As a test, we did test our floor planners to do a complete floor plan for an IKEA. So as long as your properties are around the size of an IKEA or smaller, we should be fine.
Okay, that probably includes nearly 100% of the property. Okay, great. So that's second, site plan as a strategy to sell floor plans as an add-on with Captured.
Beautiful. The next one, and these are becoming more and more popular at the moment. We started offering these maybe 2 or so years ago. They're 3D virtual floor plans. And so we're creating a static 3D version of the floor plan with all the measurements and all of the furniture within the property. These kind of weren't really that popular too long ago because they were quite time consuming to create and quite expensive. But with advances in technology, they're now quite a lot easier to create, and therefore making it more higher adoption within the markets. From our point of view, we see these as amazing value adds for a number of different reasons. One, it's standing you out from the crowd. And so you don't have your standard 2D plan on your piece of paper or on your billboards. But two, sometimes a lot of people struggle to actually understand a standard floor plan. And so these sort of floor plans give you the perspective of understanding, okay, well, a bed is in this room and this is how big this room could be or how different items could move around. It's a half step away from a Matterport tool where you have the full interactivity, but gives you that overview of that space in itself. And so again, these can be all branded, as you can see on this one. This one's black with Tommy's, but can be all sorts of different brandings and everything else around it as well.
I'm confused about pricing. So is this $16 and I get a 2D floor plan, a 2D site plan, and a 3D virtually staged static plan?
So each floor plan type, so the 2D, the site plan, and the floor plan, and then the 3D, each of them are individually $16. However, we've got a really good deal that runs with the 3D floor plans, which I believe is on my next slide, which is that with every 3D floor plan that you order, we will provide you with a 2D plan for free. And so this is the example.
So for clarification, if I'm looking at on the left side, a 2D floor plan and a site plan, and on the right side, I'm looking at a 3D floor plan and a site plan. And today, at least, there is a offer from Captured that if I order what's on the right for $16, then I also get what's on the left at no extra charge.
Yeah, that's correct. Because a lot of the time that takes to create floor plans is to measure the rooms and get the right measurements and label everything. And so we're able to create this double value for our clients because we're doing a lot of the legwork up front. And we also appreciate that the 3D virtual floor plan is a great marketing tool, but it's not always accepted as a standard for floor plans in certain regions. And so you'll still need to supply your standard floor plans to be up to legislation, depending on where you're listing a property potentially. And so using those for your the necessities being the floor and site plans, but then having your amazing virtual floor plan as your marketing tool as well. Again, it's bundling in a lot of value into that $16. And we'll talk about it later around how to then sell that. But there's a lot that you could then sell that for to your clients into the future because you're creating so much value for them.
So just to be clear, this is presently a captured 3D special offer.
Yes, it is.
And that might change, but presently for $16, you can get what's on the right and what's on the left. Total $16.
That's correct.
That's a special offer from Captured 3D. And for clarification, on the right, where we're looking at the 3D version of the floor plan, two questions. One, I see that there are measurements on there. I could imagine for a hotel room, I might not want actual measurements, and I may not even want room labels because I now see there's a bed. Can I get the plan without labels, without measurements, if I'd like it that way?
Yeah, definitely. It's completely customizable to the way that you would like it. And so if you were servicing a lot of hotels, for instance, and this was a common occurrence, what we would do for you is we would create a specific template that wouldn't have any labels or measurements. And then you could use that each time that you order one of those for your client. Or alternatively, if it's just a one-off, in the notes, you can request, please leave the measurements and notes out for this one, and our team will deliver it back under your request.
And if I look at the left or the right, I think it's two questions here, Stephen. One, you may have labeled something garage, and in Atlanta, that might be called the carport. So if I haven't specified that up front, can I still make a change? Is there a charge? And also, I noticed on the bed, you used white linen, and if I wanted a different color linen, or I wanted two twin beds in that room, can I do all this? Is there a charge for that?
Yeah, two questions which I'll answer separately. So the first part with the naming conventions, you can, there's a number of different ways to answer this question. You can have as many amendments as you require, and they're completely free. We appreciate that some clients are pretty particular with the way that they want their spaces labeled and named and everything. And sometimes you just need to update something really quickly from a bedroom one to a study or whatever it may be. All of those things are rapid turnaround and completely for free, because we want to make sure that you're getting the service back to you as quickly as possible. And by us providing for free, it means that we're going to be more poignant on making sure that when we deliver it the first time, it is as close to perfect as possible. And so it's a win-win for everyone in that situation. To help with this whole process as well, we do provide a lexicon option. So if you've got standards that you like to call carport, garage, your bedrooms, your lounge rooms, and the rest of it, you can label those. And that's not just for you as an individual. You can do that for each different client that you have. And so each client may have different names that they like to use. We save that in the account against that client. Every time you order a floor plan for them, we will use that and make sure that we deliver back the right labels. To the second part of that question around the virtual staging within the floor plan, I'll go back to this example just so you can see a little bit better. Yes, you can change out. Let's say we're looking at the master bedroom. Can you please change this from a single bed to two singles and a queen, for instance? Our team can go in there and change those pieces around. We are slightly limited on complete customizations. I think there's over 10,000 assets within the database that we can utilize, but that doesn't mean it's got everything. And so we'll get something that's pretty close to what you're wanting, but it might not always be perfect. And that's just part of the limitations of the technology.
Well, for $16, it seems like the deal of the century anyway.
Good to know. Good to know. I won't let my team know because they're going to keep creating those assets.
Okay.
So we went through the 2D and
forgive me, I think that was a third strategy to sell floor plans as an add-on with Captured, is to offer the 3D version as an extra bonus to a client, because that certainly may be something they either haven't seen before or makes the difference in helping them either get the listing, get the next listing, or help make the sale on the property.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Standing out from the crowd is the big one for that. The next one is different file formats. And so for the vast majority of what we've been speaking to prior has been very real estate focused, but there's a lot of other industries that utilize floor plans outside of real estate for obvious reasons. And so with Captured, we offer a wide range of file types. You can see them here on the left-hand side of the screen. And I'll quickly go through where you could utilize these for different industries or different purposes. And so your JPEG, your PNGs, and your GIFs are, well, sorry, your JPEGs and your PNGs are more for your print presentations. And so these are very high res images and are usually quite large in size. And so these are perfect for brochures or signboards or anything that you're going to be creating at high resolution. Your GIFs and your PDFs are more of your low res versions. Not that they're losing any quality, but this is more for web experiences. So if you're putting it on a property portal or a website, making sure that it loads really quickly and efficiently, these are the sort of file types that you want to be using in those circumstances.
Okay.
The last, yep.
I'm sorry, I'm confused on GIF because I always think of that as being there's some movement going on.
Yeah, not necessarily. A GIF is just a different file format as an image that is a lightweight file format. It can be a moving format, but not always.
Okay, cool.
The next three step outside of real estate into various different industries. So RVT stands for Revit. So anyone that's working within engineering space or architectural space would use a 3D software tool that allows them to see the space, extrude the walls, and then start manipulating or editing it how they need. And Revit is one of those key tools. The next one is CAD. It's very similar to Revit, a little bit more detailed than it and more particular to a certain, like AutoCAD, for instance, is a really good software tool that ingests those sort of floor plans. Again, it's more engineering and architectural for those pieces. And the last one is DWG. Again, all three of these are very similar format where it's more spatial and 3D information and allows you to edit and manipulate the floor plan once you've got it into a certain space to use.
On the RVT, the CAD, the DWG, are these three-dimensional floor plans that you're providing, or is it a 2D version within a 3D format?
It's a 2D version within a 3D format. But these 3D software tools, once you bring them in as 2D, you can pull the walls up pretty quickly based on the height of your walls going from there. The difficulty around creating a 3D floor plan, which we do under some circumstances under request, is once you start doing that, then you have to start adding the things like the windows and the doors exactly where they are. And it brings in another layer of difficulty that we've decided to just stay away from at this point in time.
So the RVT, the Revit file, that might be a quick way for an architect to begin an as-built or a renovation project.
Correct.
And so the architect is building on top of the existing floor plan without drawing it because it's already been drawn by you.
Correct.
By Captured. Okay, cool. And who would use a DWG file? Is that a space planner typically?
Space Planner would be a perfect example for a DWG. It's a lot more mobile version of a Revit file. Revit is quite complex to a certain extent, and so a DWG is a lot more usable for more individuals like space planners. We have a lot of customers using DWGs for fit-out purposes, and so they will scan empty office spaces and use a DWG, and then space planners would then create 4 or 5 different layers within that to show different types of co-working spaces or corporate or the different areas in which they could utilize the area.
Cool. Anything else on the floor plan files? I guess I should ask one question while you're here. The actual dimensions of the deliverable, can that be changed?
Yeah, and it does need to be changed as well when it goes back to the point that I was making before, that each region has different specifics that they need to deliver floor plans under. I'm not an expert on each region, but I appreciate that in some areas, you need to go to the exterior wall. Some is the interior wall. Some include the garage as part of the total area. Some don't. Any areas that heated is considered part of the floor span space. So each place is different. And so what we like to do for our customers is understand firstly the region that they're in, and we've probably got the standards for that region. But if not, we'll communicate with them to understand what they would need to see out of that floor plan and how it is measured. And we can provide that back to them quite easily.
I'm thinking in terms of the MLS systems having in the United States, the multiple listing services having different sizes for photography. And therefore, I may want to treat a floor plan as a photo and just import it into the MLS, treated like yet another photo. So I want it to be sized accordingly. So I can specify that up front when I place an order.
Yeah, definitely. If you understand the aspect ratios and the size of the images that you're placing in, we can replicate that on the export of the floor plan.
Cool. That actually begs another question for MLS. It's awesome to have the logos on the floor plan for the purpose of selling the floor plan into the real estate agent, to be able to always have their branding when possible when sharing with their clients and prospects. But obviously for MLS, they can't include the logo. Do you provide for the $16 a version that's with logo and a version without?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And yes, we do for that exact purpose. The team, it's under request on the order. Please provide logo and without logo. And the team does just that for your exactly the way that you've explained it. So you have your marketing version and then your MLS version as well that you can easily upload. From our point of view, our team obviously creates it with all the logos and everything. Looks beautiful. Exports that, removes all the things that can't be approved by MLS, then exports that as a second file and delivers both under the file formats that you require.
So that's interesting. So I notice on the left side of your sheet there, it says available file types. So if I just need JPEG or PNG, I can just specify which file format so that I'm not overwhelmed with yet additional digital assets that I may not want to use. So I might say I would like branded and unbranded PNG, JPEG, but if I don't need PDF, RVT, CAD, DWG, et cetera, I can just specify the file formats out of that list that I want.
Yeah, correct. So if you did nothing, we deliver back a JPEG and a PDF version of every floor plan as default. So high res and digital versions, but you can always edit and change that depending on what it is that you require.
When you have multiple floors, are the floors delivered as individual PNG files, or is it all ganged together on one page?
That's up to the discretion of whoever is ordering it. And so some people and some companies like them all together on a single page, some like them all on individuals, and some like both versions available to them. And so again, that's part of the request that you can make on order. Can you please place each floor on a different page, place them together, give me versions of both. Or if this does happen quite regularly, again, we set up templates for our customers so they can just click a button and it's easy for us to do.
So what I'm hearing is there's just one price. It's $16. It doesn't matter what size, space it is. It doesn't matter whether it's in feet and inches or metric, labels, no labels, branded, unbranded, 3D, 2D, site plan, various floor plans, file types. It's all one price, all inclusive, $16.
We like to make it easy, but yes.
I mean, that's my impression. I go, wow, well, that was super easy. I don't have to think about all the different permutations that I might be creating. Not that I want to suggest that you're not charging enough and you might want to increase pricing, because $16 sounds like the deal of the century. It's probably, even if I may, just staring at this page, because in the back of my head, I think, well, I can order Matterport floor plans for $15. And if I pay $1 more, I get so many other opportunities. So Matterport, I'm limited to $15 for under 10,000 square feet. And then if I want to get a space that's over 10,000 square feet, it's going to cost me $30. And then if it's over 25,000 square feet, Matterport won't even touch it. And then in terms of file formats, Matterport's going to only give me PNG, SVG, and PDF in black and white. There's no option for color. And it not only does it come with a Matterport logo, my licensing of using Matterport assets requires that I keep that Matterport logo on the floor plan and not remove the Matterport logo. So for $1 more, I get site plans included, color, additional file types, not limited in terms of size, can have the text that I want, formatted the way I want, with unlimited, I guess you call it amendments, I would call it unlimited changes. And there's just one price.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
It's
I do just have to say, any of our WGAN TV viewers that are looking at this page, listening to this conversation, if you're presently using Matterport to create your floor plans, run, don't walk to Captured 3D. Oh, by the way, you can try it out again. You can receive a $90 Captured 3D credit. It's good for 5 captured floor plans, plus you'll still have change left over. Use the WGAN affiliate link, wgan.info/captured, captured 3D, CAPTUR 3D. That's really awesome. What else you got to show us?
What's in my next slide here? And just to your point, I guess, from that, it's where we started when we were in MSP, before we started creating floor plans and things like that. Captured. We found so much value in our floor plans, but we found it really difficult to find a really good floor plan provider. And that's why we started Captured in the beginning. And it was one of the first services that we brought on board. And our philosophy has always been, do the opposite to the things that have frustrated us by the clients that we had to work with in the past. And that's why we have those single pricings and a lot of offerings that we do create, because we know that it's a lot easier for you to understand, but then also sell. And our goal isn't for us to make mountains of money. We want to make a group with our customers to be able to create value for them, to be able to make money, because that's a win-win-win triangle for everyone. The last part here that we can just touch on, but templates, which we've been touching on throughout the whole piece, but also fast turnaround. We appreciate that things need to be happening really quickly. So all of our floor plans are delivered within 24 hours. To be fair, usually between 12 hours, unless they're super large floor plans. And so they're back within your hands, usually overnight if you're ordering overnight. And as we're talking about free changes or amendments, and then all of those have rapid turnaround times within it. We've talked about the templates. You can have as many of these as you like, completely unlimited. So if you have 1,000 customers and each one of them has a different design that they would like to use, we can replicate that and have it as a one-click option. Each time you create a virtual tour for them, at one click, within 12 hours, you'll have their design back to them.
So 2 questions from looking at this page here, Stephen. So if this is all based on Matterport. So if I submit my Matterport tour, the tour has been processed, I send it to Captured before I leave the office, let's call it 6 o'clock Eastern time. When I wake up, I typically should have that the Captured floor plan waiting for me.
That's the goal.
In the majority of the case. And then second, actually 2 things. We've been talking about, first on Matterport, you can't begin your work, Captured can't begin work until the floor plan's ready. So can I just say to Captured, hey, here's the link. When it processes, please get started? Or do I have to wait until Matterport processes before I communicate with Captured?
No, it's actually a really good point. Would you like me to take you through a couple of different ways that you could order a floor plan?
And while you're setting up, I guess the other question I had on that is, if I have a sketch, can you work off of a sketch with maybe a couple of laser measurements on some key rooms? Is that sufficient?
Yeah, it is. All 3 of those questions actually really well aligned with the way that our system is thought through and created. And so for those of you new to Captured, this is the dashboard. This is where all the action happens. There are a number of webinars going through each of the features. So a number of shows that we've done together with Dan, where we go through a number of the features that we've got here. For anything to start, click on the new. We're going to jump into the floor plan section here to begin with, but I'll go through how you could use the other ones to also get your floor plans as quickly as possible back to you. So at this point here, you can see here, there's 2 options: from a Matterport URL or from a file. So to your point just then, Dan, if you'd like to draw it out and then create the measurements or however it is that you're creating your floor plan, or if you've even got your building schematics, this happens a fair bit where people have done a renovation or they've got the building plans and they want to convert that into a more real estate focused floor plan, upload that file and we can then send it back to you in the format that you require. If we go down the route of the Matterport side, do I have a link involved? No, I don't. You put your Matterport URL in and your address, pretty simple because we need this for the site plan and also any of the other information around your region. So this is telling me that I'm here in Melbourne, Australia, or Victoria. And we talked about this at the top around Captured providing a number of templates that you could use off the bat. And so you can see here our standard templates. This is the 3D floor and site plan. So if you click on it, you get a quick example here on the left-hand side of the ones that we're looking at. And this one is the square foot version. We've also got the square meter ones, the floor and site plans. So we went through this one before as well, both in square foot and imperial. And we've got the standard floor plan as well, both in square foot and in metric. And then all the ones below here are all the ones that we've got as our custom ones that we've uploaded at one point in time. So if I was to look at my French template, for instance, looks like it's a PDF in there, or Jealous Craig. Let me find one of the other ones here. that would walk them through. There we go. So my templates don't want to be coming up, but they're all sitting within there. You select one of those as your option that you would like to create. Add any of the notes that we were discussing before. So leave the room labels off, whatever it may be. Be nice if I could spell as well. And you could also upload any additional files that may help. So this is where you would upload your drone image potentially, or anything that you would need to add into the section.
So I'm not limited to one upload. So if I want to upload a logo and maybe I have some other drawing that might be helpful. Maybe I have a 2D photo of the backyard. I don't have the aerial, but I have and I don't have a 360 scan, but I got a couple pictures. I could upload them there as well.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly right. And if they're usually one-offs, that's the exact place to do it. But if you're going to be doing it consistently, we ask that you create a custom template. So if I click on here, so creating a template, you give it a name. You could even use an existing plan. So let's say that this one is using our standard floor and site plan that you see here on the left-hand side. You could upload your logo and ask us to put it on the top left, bottom right, in the middle, do it as a watermark, for instance, and then save that as a specific template through that option.
So this is the page I would use to say, okay, client A, these colors, these logos, this disclaimer, this following text, whether it's I want room labels, whether I want measurements, etc. And then I could keep doing this client B, client C, client D. So I have templates. So if I understand this correctly, what Captured is doing is creating super fast workflows that it's assuming that I'm just going to keep placing orders for each of these kinds of clients. And let's just make it easy for everyone by having a template for clients A, B, C, D, E, F, and so forth.
Correct. It's a volume game for a lot of it in real estate. So the quicker you can create your processes and pipelines, the easier your life's going to be and the more time you can spend with your family. And so that's adding a logo or items to an existing plan. But then obviously the simplest version is to upload a completely customized floor plan, something that they may be already using or something that you see as being beautiful and would like to offer your clients as well. You upload that floor plan, our team receives it, breaks it all apart, gets the fonts, the colors, and builds it back together in their design software. And so when an order comes in, they're ready to go with that design.
Yeah, just watching the show today, it's quite inspiring for me, Stephen, because I see, oh, I could as you were talking, I could upload the architect's plans for a space that doesn't even exist yet and get back 2D schematic floor plans that are marketing appropriate, as well as a 3D staged space for a space that doesn't exist yet.
Correct.
Which means I don't have to wait for when I'm talking to a property, to a property management company that, come back and scan in about 6 months when the space is ready for you. I can help that client today by saying, hey, we can create these kinds of 2D floor plans, these kinds of 3D floor plans, this kind of site plan. All we need is your architect's drawings, and we can take it from there.
Exactly right.
Cool. Pricing strategies. So you went through, I counted 7 strategies to sell floor plans as an add-on with Captured 3D. Okay, I get it. Now, how do I price floor plans to our clients?
Yeah, and again, this is going to be region specific, and even within different countries, like Australia, as an example, because I've got a good standing here, because obviously I live here. Each state is different, and metro cities to rural, everyone has different pricing strategies. But the way that we see it here in Australia and in a lot of parts of the world, what a standard floor plan used to cost before Matterport was a thing, where people would go in with a laser and draw it, is about what a virtual tour costs these days in a lot of different areas. And so you're able to offer in this virtual tour and this byproduct of what they're usually used to receiving, being a floor plan, either at a small margin or to be able to use that as a tool to win that listing, and then over time build the rapport with the client to then bring that back into the foray as a more paid service as well. And so it sits around, again, it could be anything, right? From $50 to $500, depending on where you are for a standard floor plan. And so there's a lot of room to wiggle, especially when you're only being charged $16 to create it.
So this is like a super important point, because I think it may be tempting for a photographer to say, oh, it's cost me $16. I'll mark it up double. I'll mark it up triple. Whoa, stop right there. You may be talking to a client that's already spending $200, $300, $400. I've met a photographer at one point who was charging clients $500 to create floor plans, just like what Stephen is showing, but without having the benefit of a Matterport tour to create it. So he would go out and measure the space and then go back to the drafters, and it would cost $500. So this is probably a good example of think value-based pricing, not what your actual cost was. So do you want to pick it up from there? Do you have other pricing strategies to describe? Let's call that one value-based pricing.
Yeah, there's also almost like the reverse version of that as well, where you're selling the virtual tour but offering a floor plan as an add-on to that virtual tour. We see with a lot of customers that they're scanning purely for the floor plan. And so you do scan slightly differently. It's more rapid because you're not using it for the virtual tour. The client may not want it, but it's a lot quicker and a lot cheaper for you to use the Matterport to then output a floor plan than using traditional methods as well. And so having that in your mind, if they just wanted a floor plan, how you could quickly get through a property, not doing all the intricate details and things like that, to output a floor plan is also a really useful tool to know and remember.
So in that case, you're still using Matterport to do the capture. It just makes it easier for the photographer, probably makes it easier for capture as a drafter. So let's just say you're going to charge $499 for a floor plan. Let's just pick a number. You might say, and we'll give you the Matterport tour for free. So
potentially,
if you were, in your market, let's say you're in a market where you're charging $250 for a Matterport tour, it may not be inconceivable to be charging $250 for floor plans as well. So you may, as an add-on, double the amount of revenue that you get for that property. But it may be for a particular client, it may make sense to just simply quote $499 for the floor plan and the Matterport tours for free.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head for particular clients, and you'll be working with your clients and understanding them better than us, right? Because you understand what they're going through, what their price points are, and what they're looking to spend. And for some customers, you will provide the exact same services, and just pricing it differently or framing it differently helps them digest the information and then potentially even sell it on to their marketing managers or directors or principals or whoever they need to as well. It's really important. But the one thing that when speaking to a lot of the clients that do offer the floor plan without the virtual tour, when I do speak to them, that they remind me that they don't often like to give away the virtual tour, because then it reduces the perceived value of what you can create with Matterport. And so it's still there if you'd like to buy it, but I really did like your strategy there of just combining it all as like a all for one price. And this is everything that you get. That's a really good idea. Yeah.
So I think as you described, Stephen, it's going to depend on the kind of listing, the market, the service level, the client's needs. So I think it's really important to listen to, if the client just wants floor plans and they don't want a tour, that's perfectly fine. Offer them floor plans, charge accordingly, and your byproduct happens to be a Matterport tour, that maybe that becomes the add-on to the floor plan. So if you're going to decide to say, well, I think I could get $350, and I always speak in nine, so I would say $349. So if you think you can get $349 for the floor plan, excuse me, you may have a price to offer the Matterport as an add-on. So I'm just flipping it around. It still may be the Matterport plus floor plan equals the same price, whether you've ordered the floor plan only, the Matterport only, the floor plan is the primary and the Matterport is the add-on, or I've ordered a Matterport and the floor plan is an add-on. It actually happens. So I think it's really, because a lot of times people post in the We Get Around Network forum, WGAN forum.com, to say, hey, my client just needs a floor plan. How do you suggest I do that? And, hey, the answer still may be shoot Matterport in order to get the floor plan. And it may be a quick, easy way. And then you still have an opportunity after you've delivered the floor plan to come back to the client and say, oh, by the way, if you'd like the 3D tour, that's an extra X. Would you like that? And still have an add-on.
I think everyone would have gone through this experience starting as an MSP or a Matterport business at one point, having a client that is objective to the service, but then you scan something for them and you show them their own space or their own property or something of theirs being in a Matterport virtual tour, and all of a sudden their tune immediately changes, being like, wow, this is amazing, because they're finally seeing something that's theirs in that space. And you can use that a lot with these initial conversations and starting up with your clients where you're offering them a floor plan. Like, hey, by the way, I created this. And they'll be like, oh, and then you dive into the pricing and build that relationship over time so it becomes the standard for them to start ordering off you.
Yeah, so there you have. Matterport Tour is the discussion today, 7 strategies to sell floor plans as an add-on, but it doesn't mean that Matterport can't be the add-on. It's just that your client started with, they wanted floor plans. So use Matterport, shoot the tour, create the floor plan, and know that you might be able to offer Matterport as an add-on. Other pricing strategies for floor plans as an add-on?
Other pricing strategies for the floor plan. So we were talking about it before with the value of the 3D virtual tour. I'm sorry, the 3D floor plan along with the 2D version as well. So it's a 2-for-1 perceived value when you're offering these to your clients. You mentioned it just before as well. Just because we're charging $16 doesn't mean that you need to charge double or triple. Those 2 floor plans hold immense value from a marketing point of view and from a standards point of view that in some cases the listing can't go live without a schematic floor plan. So you're able to provide a lot of value to those clients, and so therefore charging accordingly for those 2, or even pricing it at a higher level. So these individually cost $100 each, so $200, but today I'll give you 50% off, and so I'll provide you both floor plans for $100. Those sort of pricing techniques provide a perceived value to your client with enough of a margin for you to still have value in your business.
Yeah, so excellent points. And I'm going to comment, I think, on a number of things you just described, Stephen, and feel free to comment back here. At the end of the day, I know we're going to have viewers to say, please just tell me how much to charge. So I'm going to throw out some numbers for the United States. $49, $99, $149, $249, $299, $349, $399, $449, $499. Someplace in there is a price point that makes sense for you. And you might start high knowing that you can always come down. So you might surprise yourself in a market where you think, well, maybe I could get $99 for the floor plans. Well, start out at $199. And until somebody tells you 10 times over, 10 different clients tell you, sorry, too much, then you can go change your pricing. But if you have, you might surprise yourself that clients say yes. And I think to Stephen's point is you may unbundle the 2D floor plan, the 3D floor plan, and the site plan. So you may or may not, choose to do that, but you might say the floor plan is $99, the site plan is $99, the 3D floor plan is $99, and if you buy all 3, it's $249. So you kind of established a reference price of what each of those elements are worth, but still have a bundled price, so one price. And again, that $249 may not be the right price in your market based on the kind of listings you do, the kinds of price points of your listings or the service level that gets provided to a client. But we're just trying to float some different pricing strategies. I would just run by just a couple of other thoughts here. You may choose to offer floor plans for free when you buy X bundle. So if your bundle is typically Matterport, photos, and video, in order to help get the client to go for that third service, which may be Matterport, maybe in the order they want photos first, maybe they want video second, maybe they're going to get Matterport, then if you can say, and if you do my bundle, photos, video, and Matterport, I will include floor plans, and on your rate card, that might be a $249 item. All you wanted to really do with the floor plan, site plan, 3D floor plan was get your client to buy into your bundle. You're already going to drive to that location. You're going to be there, and you want to maximize the amount of money that you're going to earn for that job. You may only be able to shoot 2 or 3 jobs a day. Wouldn't you rather just be on site and get paid for 3 different services, knowing that something that cost you $16 that may have a perceived value in your market of $249 puts you over the top to get photos, videos, and Matterport. I did mention that I speak in nines. There's a lot of research about price points, and if you're presently charging an even price of 10, 20, 30, 40, consider adding a 9. Just Google marketing related to 9s, even in the forum we've discussed it. You might use floor plans as a way to get prepayment. So if you want to get prepaid, you might be offering floor plans as the mechanism to achieve that. You might charge per floor. We do have Matterport service providers that do this. I'm not making this stuff up. You're going to go shoot a 3-level house, and let's say ultimately you were going to charge, let's call it I'll make it simple, $149 for a 3-level house to do the floor plans. Then you can say floor plans starting at $49. Well, that's $49 per floor. So if you know you're always shooting 3-level homes for that client in your area, then it may make sense to position it as $49 a floor. And then the client goes, oh, well, that makes sense, because they're thinking, how hard is it for you to do this? Never mind that it takes 2 seconds to place the order with Captured. But the client's thinking in their head, oh, well, yeah, if they do 2 floors or 3 floors, that's going to be more work. So they would logically charge me more for that. So think about charging, particularly if you're in a market where you're typically doing 2 and 3 levels, then it may make sense to charge by floor. Stephen, I saw a little bit of a nod there. I think you actually like that one a little bit.
That's a good one. I hadn't really thought about that one, but it makes complete sense from a customer's point of view, how they're thinking about the value. It's a good strategy.
Thank you. Free when X happens. This is kind of, this may be, there's something you're trying to get the client to do. It may be you want them to prepay for the next 10 properties. Maybe we're getting to the end of the year, and client is on a cash basis on their taxes, and they had a really great year, so they want to pay you a lot of money in 2021 before December 31st because they can deduct it from taxes. You might give them an incentive to say, hey, if you prepay us for 10 Matterport tours or more for the following year, then floor plans will be free for all your listings. And again, if you have a rate card that says you charge $249 for that, client is thinking, oh, well, I could do 10 prepaid. That's $2,500. Well, that's cool. I'm going to get $2,500 in value in floor plans and site plans in the next year. And all I need to do is prepay for 10 Matterport tours this year. I like my photographer. I'm very happy. I know what my volume is going to be. And again, I had a great 2021, and I know that I'm on a cash, it's a real estate agent talking, I'm on a cash basis. So I really do want to prepay, let's call it $5,000 to my photographer, because I trust my photographer and I know I'm going to do business with them, and I can reduce my tax obligation in this calendar year and pick up value. So that's an example of free when X happens, whatever X might be. And in that case, I used prepayment for multiple tours as an example. Do you like that one?
Yeah, that is a good one. And there's also the alternative to that where you have a retainer. I'm not sure if that's on the list, but you have your monthly retainer at a smaller fixed rate. So if you know that a client is doing 10 per month and you are charging $249, you offer them $1,999 for unlimited floor plans in that month. They're most likely going to cap out at 10 each time, but they're getting value and you're getting a locked in retainer as well.
Which may be a way to get the retainer in the first place, is to say, look, if you pay me $2,000 a month as a retainer, and we'll charge off your projects as you do them against that retainer, in exchange for that predictability for my income as a photographer, I'm going to offer you floor plans for all your listings during your retainer at no charge. So again, it depends on the client, it depends on you, your market, but there's ways to use floor plans where you don't have to charge. And I think that's a good example of why you might say, well, in our market, maybe floor plans are maybe $250, but I'm going to price them at $399 or $349, but I don't actually expect to sell any. I'm just using them as a tool to get a retainer or to get prepaid. And that way I get to show a lot of value to the client, because that's what I would charge otherwise, even if you really don't expect to actually charge that. And surprise, you might actually get that. I think a lot of photographers tend to underprice themselves. I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, whatever voices are talking to you. So what a great opportunity to experiment with floor plans as an add-on, is charge more than you think you possibly could get, and you might be surprised. Sampling. Sometimes you've had a conversation with a client up front where you're having so much conversation about photos, video, aerial, Matterport. You don't want to make their brain burst by giving them yet something else to buy. So offer floor plans after the fact. So go deliver the project that you promised your client. And then here's two options that I would suggest. One is the first time with that client, when you do that order, thank them for the business and send them the 2D floor plan, the 3D floor plan, the site plan, and just say, hey, thanks for your business. Here it is, no charge. Oh, by the way, if you'd like to order that in the future, this is what I charge. So that's what when I describe sampling, that's a way to, what did it cost you? It cost you $16 to send something that had a very high perceived value as a thank you gift to the client. And that sampling might actually turn into future business. And then I think the two last things I would describe would be for new clients, you might just offer the first one's free anyway. So, give them something free. You might tell them that up front when they engage you, or if they engage you, or you might just deliver it as a thank you gift. And I think the last thing that I have on my list, Stephen, is differentiation. You talked about this earlier, that 2D floor plans, 3D floor plans, site plans are a way to differentiate yourself as a photographer to your client. It's also an opportunity for your client to differentiate themselves from a bazillion other real estate agents. I read an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal this year that there are more real estate agents in the United States today than there are actually properties for sale. And it's a great statistic to get your head around. There are more real estate agents today than there are properties for sale today. If you were playing musical chairs, there's a lot of real estate agents that are not going to have a seat when the music ends. So real estate agents really need help differentiating themselves from every other real estate agent in their market. And so if you can give them a tool so that when they go into a listing presentation, they're not only talking about, well, we're going to provide you photos and video and aerial and this 3D walk around, but we also do these floor plans and this 3-dimensional floor plan, and we do these site plans. It's everything to help the agent win the listing, get bigger premium listings, and to repeat that, to win more and bigger premium listings more often. And wow, you can do that with a $16 product from Captured. Is that crazy?
That is pretty crazy. And the thing, just hearing you go through your different strategies, it's a really good reminder. The game that we are in isn't necessarily technology, it's relationships. And all the things that we're doing when we're speaking with our clients is building that rapport to build that relationship for trust, because value your services and value your output, because what you are creating is immensely valuable both to your client and to their client, whether it's the virtual tour, the drone, the photos, the floor plan, whatever it may be. You're creating an amazing amount of value. And so don't harp on the value, focus on the relationship. And all of those strategies that Dan went through then are relationship building strategies where you're offering something for free to show, hey, we can do this in the future, or here are a few different options to help you stand out in the crowd. And so it's you helping your clients, building that rapport and building that reoccurring business from those individuals. And over time, you're going to have a larger pool of individuals to work with, but it's all about relationships. And so use these small tools. $16 for a floor plan. It's not going to break the bank. Use it to build a stronger relationship. Don't try and get every cent out of every deal. Try and use it to make the bigger deal in the future.
Awesome. I think I would add just one other thought to this, Stephen, is there are so many Matterport service providers that are not presently offering floor plans. And I could practically pull out my hair to go, oh my gosh, floor plans for $16 is a great example of an add-on that doesn't cost the photographer any time to actually do. For the little bit that it took to order it, that's it. And it barely cost any money, $16. So this is a great example of an add-on of many possible add-ons to offer clients. This is the one that absolutely should be added to your repertoire, because I think we could probably go through the math and say, if you're presently doing Matterport and photos, adding floor plans might actually increase your gross revenue for the year by 50% or more. I think if we actually did a Google sheet and experimented with the numbers, and we came out and said, okay, we're selling the Matterport, tour for $250, and we can get you $125 for 2D, 3D floor plans plus site plans, that just increased your revenue by 50%. And your cost of goods sold, $16, is very little. And we only did a little quick back of the napkin example. So you actually might, if you're offering the floor plan, 2D floor plan separately from the 3D floor plan from the site plan, or you're charging by floor, and I hate to make it complex, but let's just say that through one of those conversations we had, you can actually end up getting $175. When you went out and did the Matterport tour for $250, that took you time to do. Floor plans don't take any time of the photographer. So I just have to say, for every Matterport service provider, I challenge you to figure out a pricing strategy that works for you and experiment. It doesn't have to be that, that when you come up with a strategy, a pricing strategy, that you got to live with it forever. So test and learn and see which one is the right price point or the right strategy or the right bundle that works for you. Because floor plans has the potential to increase your gross revenue, your annual gross revenue by 50%. And I don't think I'm making that up. I think that that's actually doable, if not more. Stephen, anything new that Captured 3D is working on? We'll put a bow in floor plans and move on. Anything else that exciting that Captured 3D has coming that we haven't previously talked about on one of our shows together?
Yeah, there's always a lot that we're working on. But yeah, we could also speak about floor plans for weeks, I think, because there's just so much value in it. Really excited about a number of the new features that we're about to be releasing on Captured. And as a bit of a sneak peek for our next show that we'll be running with We Get Around TV live at 5 in the not so distant future, you just got to book it in, Dan, is around our Creator Studio, which is the suite of services that we're creating with Matterport's SDK and API. And so we've bundled it all into what we're coining as our Creator Studio. This is the virtual staging with a huge update to its efficiency and optimization. You may have tried some other virtual staging services in the past, and on mobile, they don't seem to work very well. They're quite laggy. We've got an amazing implementation that's solving for that, which we're really excited about. Our media embed and our photos, which we went through earlier today. Our location-based audio, I'm really excited about this one, picking certain sweeps and placing audio tracks on top of them. So as you move through a space and you see and be fed the information of what you're looking at and how you're moving through that area. Custom tags, which allows you to change the icon, website embed, photo galleries, being able to click on a tag and have it different sizes pop up and different colors, and a whole bunch of different animations through that process, changing the font, changing the language, and all the pieces around that as well. We are just days away from releasing all of these items into our beta release space within Captured. If you do want to get involved, we've got our Facebook group, which is Captured Community Group, CCG. So please join there. A lot of deals go up there as well for floor plans and everything else, and you get early access to our features. And there's going to be a small announcement in the next week or so on our AR Connect tool around wayfinding, which is about to hit the market. So really excited for that as well.
Awesome. I would say to our WGAN TV viewers, if you're interested in wayfinding, augmented reality, Stephen did a show. He's probably spent an hour talking with us about Captured 3D. Captured. I should say with the spelling is CAPTUR 3D. So I struggle sometimes. So Captured.
Everyone does.
Yeah. So I may be a little bit redundant there. So Captured, Stephen did about an hour of WGAN TV speaking about augmented reality, AI, which essentially is wayfinding is one example of that. If you're interested in that show, go to WGANforum.com. Go search the tags section of the forum, tags, and just put in Captured, CAPTUR 3D. That's one way to find all the posts about Captured. Or in the subject line, you can put in Captured, probably AI or Captured augmented reality, and probably pick up that topic. Since we do transcribe all the shows, you could even type in WGAN space transcript, and you'd likely be able to scan the list of previous shows with Captured in it. Wow, Stephen, you mentioned some really exciting things. So all those things you described, that's part of Captured Creative Studios. And so we should do a show on that, WGAN TV Live at 5. That's awesome. I think what I heard, which is just awesome, that adding audio to an individual scan. So as I move through the space, perhaps a museum, and I'm standing in front of a painting, that I can now get just by stepping up to the painting get the audio tour for that painting.
That's correct. And you could also group a number of sweeps together. So if we go back to real estate, you could group the kitchen and the lounge room and those sweeps. So when you enter in that space, you get told about the bench tops and things, and then you get told about other areas when you move into it. And so, yeah, really excited about this feature going live.
Awesome. And then I think I heard that Matter tags can be color. There's some variations that Matterport doesn't offer that Captured is offering.
Yeah, we wanted to make it a more customizable space. And so think of it as almost like Google Docs now. So customize your font, your colors, your languages, and then even what you're embedding into it being a lot easier. So photo galleries, websites, all within a tag rather than taking you out of the tour. Our goal is to get people to spend as much time in the tour as possible rather than taking them elsewhere.
So that sounds like if I have photos, I won't have to host the photos someplace else.
Post them in, you place them into Captured, and then create your photo albums through there.
So if I've been struggling for where to host my digital assets, such as a photo or even a 360, that I could host the 360s, host photos, host documents, all within the Captured platform.
That's correct.
And then have them embedded in the Matter tags.
That's it.
Well, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to that WGAN TV Live at 5 show on Captured Creative Studios, and we'll post in the forum when we schedule that. Is that cool?
We might need 2 hours for that one.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. We'll see how we go. It's always good catching up though. That's why.
I love visiting with you. You always have such great stuff to show for Captured. Again, I just leave maybe the last thought before I ask you for your last thought. My last thought is we've covered a lot of ground on 7 strategies to sell floor plans as an add-on with Capture 3D Captured. If you're not presently a Captured customer, run, don't walk to take advantage of a $90 free credit with Captured. It's good for 5 free Captured floor plans, and you get back change because you won't even spend the full $90 on 5 floor plans. Or you can use it on one of the other Captured services, such as photo editing. Lots of different services that Captured offered. So use the WGAN affiliate link for Captured. It's wgan.info/Captured, CAPTUR3D. Stephen, before we say bye, anything else that we should talk about in today's show?
I think we've covered it all, but just to reiterate, using floor plans to build relationships is probably the most useful thing that I learned when I was an MSP. It creates a lot of value for your customer, and if you can offer it to them for free to win more listings off them, it's probably the most beneficial thing I could suggest.
Awesome. Stephen, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me. It's always been great.
We've been visiting with Stephen Kunis. Stephen is the founder and chief operating officer for Captured, based in Melbourne, Australia. For Stephen, I am Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum, and you've been watching WGAN TV Live at 5.